Okay, so Xi'an's History of Rock Part 10, Soul Rock. And we've been delving into UK scenes a lot, and they were invariably inspired by and usually later adopted by US musicians. Um, but we're now going to take a quick look at perhaps the most elegant and powerful rock scene, soul rock, conceived in the US and almost entirely practiced by US musicians. So, what is soul? Well, soul music began with jazz soul musicians in the 40s and 50s, like Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Etta James, Billie Holiday. And then into the 60s, you had Motown musicians starting doing kind of more ballady songs, more subdued songs, and musicians from other record labels as well, like Aretha Franklin, Otis Redding, Sam Cooke, developing quite similar step from jazz soul, but just kind of less, even more subdued, less happy, and even more soul-wrenching, if that's possible. Less instruments. The point of soul is to touch the person's heart and soul. Its connection, and it comes from hundreds of years of pain and anguish and struggle. So that really became the kind of the hallmark of soul musicians. That's what they wanted to do. But yeah, as I say, a lot of Motown musicians eventually got into soul as well. Started to expand their repertoire and styles, and good examples of Motown musicians that went this way are Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder. And I think when those two, for example, amongst others, obviously started to get more rocky, then you had a kind of something a little new. I'm not sure if that's the moment that soul rock was born, or perhaps it was the next moment, which was that the white Caucasian community finally, because it takes a long time to really feel and be able to express these old ancient cultural feelings and sentiments. But when that finally happened, maybe that was the point that soul rock, not soul, but soul rock developed. So soul music just played hard, played with a bit of aggression and power. This event was characterized by musicians like Janis Joplin, great example. Was white, Caucasian, but just sounded like she could have been black, Afro-American musician. Her most famous songs were really played really quite hard, and definitely you're looking at like the bridge there between just soul and soul rock. And then solidified even more by bands. For me, Creedence Clearwater Revival were a great example. They really sound like they're capturing this essence of Afro-American music. Songs like I Put a Spell on You, sound like they could have been black Afro-Americans, and their soul was hard. You know, it was real, and yeah, and then then developed from there. I suppose the Allman Brothers getting a little more in the kind of Wonder or Marvin Gaye vibe of like a little happier, maybe a little hopeful, more instruments, but it was still just pure soul and just hard soul. Basically, they're often usually categorized as hard rock, but personally, I have my own logic to all this, and they would be classified as a soul rock band according to my school of thought. And then the scene went on through the 70s with bands like Three Dog Night and Bad Manners. Their first album was great, soul rock album. Even Steely Dan, they didn't get. No, you might be classified as a jazz rock band or a funk rock band, but I mean they did it all. They did so much, but many of their songs could easily be classified as soul rock songs, and you can hear that they were just wholly inspired by Afro-American music scenes. Yeah, so that's soul rock.